Hey team, this is Coach Cody with Run with Coach D. Today in our Masterclass series, Training for the Marathon, we're going to talk about strength training. We're going to go over things to help you get training into your program. If you're already strength training, how to optimize it, how to progress, and where to put in your season, how to organize it in your schedule. Let's meet Coach D and myself. Coach D, she ran her first marathon in 2012. She has run 20 marathons now and hasn't looked back. She's done 3 Marine Corps marathons. Her personal best is a 3:48:54. I was there with her. It's an amazing day. Um, she has coached hundreds of athletes from all experience levels, from 7-hour marathoners to 2:41 marathoners. She is the owner and head coach for Run with Coach D, full-time personal trainer. She's a triathlon coach, running coach, and we're based out of Arlington, Virginia. I'm Coach Cody. I'm a 3-time Boston qualifier. I have a marathon of two a PR in my marathon of 2:41. I am also a triathlete. I'm a 2-time world championship qualifier. I am also a strength coach, personal trainer. I'm a running coach. I've coached cross country and track for several years, and I'm also a triathlon coach. And just like Coach C, I've worked with athletes of all ability levels, and I love integrating strength training into my runners and my triathletes program because I know it makes such a huge difference. Let's just talk about strength training as that missing piece for most athletes first. It's something that we usually don't do due to schedule. We don't have access to maybe a weight training area or weights. It's just something that gets thrown to the wayside. But strength training, plyometric training, and isometric training are all factors that can really help us become better runners in the short and the long term and help us stay healthier. And we're going to talk about ways why, how that happens, and again, how you can make it a part of your program. First off, do we strength train already consistently? Yes. Awesome. If you are, give yourself a pat on the back. That's amazing. What we're hoping to do today is just teach you new ways to structure your training and maybe some exercises that can be a little more specific for running. If you don't worry. It's never too late to start. We hope we can provide a roadmap on how to get started for your marathon training. Some of the common barriers that we hear a lot of: I don't have time. I don't know what to do. I'm worried it will make me too sore. Or I think running is just all I need to be a better runner. All fair, but let's break that down a little bit. I don't have time. If you have 20, 30 minutes, a little less, a little more, you have time for strength training. A little goes a long way. I don't know what to do. We want to start simple. Basic exercises that progress to more running specific exercises. You can start with the basics for a while and get a lot out of that as long as you're pushing hard enough. And then as you go into your season, or as you just get better with the time you have, you can progress those exercises, make them more running specific and a little more effective for your running. I'm worried it'll make me too sore. That's fair. You will get sore with strength training, but not to the point where you shouldn't be able to run. If you start easy and build, your body will adapt, just like running. I think running is enough. To be a better runner, sure, that's definitely enough. But are we reaching our potential as runners if we're not adding strength training? Probably not. When we weightlift, we do a lot of things to help us stay stronger or get stronger, help us be more injury resilient, help us be more powerful as runners, and help increase our running economy, which we'll talk about here, is a big factor of how it can make you better in the short and long term. Remember, we're all beginners once. We can do things simply. To start everything off, try doing bodyweight options at home if you don't have a gym. Use what things you have at home. Doesn't need to be weights as long as it feels like it's hard enough. Also, it's okay to be sore. Again, we'll talk about ways that we can kind of mitigate that soreness a little bit, but it shouldn't affect your running. We don't want you to be toilet sore, where it's hard to get off the toilet. And again, running isn't enough. We're going to tell you why. So why does it matter? Well, the main benefits for strength training, plyometric training, and isometric training in running, the big thing is improved running economy. Basically, being able to run faster with less effort. Who wouldn't want that? Injury resistance. strong muscles, tendons, and ligaments to absorb the stresses, the consistent impact of running. Better balance and symmetry. Running is a forward sport. We want to move in all directions to keep our body healthy overall. We want to correct imbalances from all those repetitive movements. And then a higher performance ceiling. The stronger we are, the more potential we have for speed. The more potential we have for speed, the faster we can go at all distances. First off, what is running economy? Running economy is the actually ability for a body to use oxygen and energy at any given speed. The better economy we have, the less oxygen we use and the less effort. So we'll be able to go at whatever speed and use less resources, which is huge. That means that you're going to be like a Prius. We're going to be a really fuel efficient kind of car. That's kind of what we want to be. Doesn't sound sexy, but that's a really good runner. We don't want to be a Hummer. We don't want to be a gas guzzler using a lot of fuel, energy, resources. Small changes can make a big impact with your running economy. So another illustration of this is if I have, let's say, a VO2 max, or what a lot of people tend to measure runners with. A VO2 max is our ability to use oxygen. Let's consider that kind of like not our fuel, but let's just say in this example, like our fuel. If I have two runners who have the same VO2 max, let's say 70, you would think they're both going to run the same speed no matter what race. But runners of varying VO2 maxes run very different races and very different speeds. One runner at 70 could be way faster than the other runner at 70. This is because the first runner is a lot more economic. They use a lot less resources. They've got the same engine and same build, but I've got the Prius and I've got the Hummer. That Prius is always going to win in a race, unless it's a drag race, but we're not sprinters, we're distance runners. Another illustration of this is if I have a 5% increase or improvement in my running economy, I can, in ideal settings, run significantly faster and say like a marathon. If I'm a 4-hour marathoner, that could be up to 12 minutes faster. That's way under that 4-hour barrier. So it can be a huge difference to improve your running economy. And it doesn't take a ton of extra time or effort to make those changes. How can we do it? Basically, let's start off with plyometrics. Plyometric training is jump training. It basically, if you think about like a jump. So if I have you drop down, jump as high as you can, that's a plyometric exercise. There's a lot of different ways to train plyometrics, from doing simple pogo hops, something like kind of using like a jump rope and just jumping up and down, to vertical jumps, to broad jumps, or jumping out instead of up. All of those basic movements can become more running specific over time. These can include like single leg pogos, single leg jumps, single leg broad jumps, or bounds, where it's a little more continuous jump from leg to leg. Running essentially is bounding when you think about it. We're striking the ground with 1 foot at a time and bounding to the leg. So it makes sense if I get better at jumping and producing really fast force, I'm probably going to be a faster and better runner. And there's a lot of ways to tackle that. You want to start with the basics first and then build into something that's going to be a little bit more running specific. In the end, what plyometrics do is they help with lower leg stiffness, with force production through your muscles, and your ability to basically be powerful. They increase your power. Heavy lifting does this in a sense too. Heavy lifting, when we lift something off the ground or when we're squatting, something on our back, we're producing a lot of force. So we're recruiting a lot more muscle. When we lift heavy, a lot of different things happen. We build muscle, we build strength, which is, again, it's a combination of our ability to build muscle and then produce force with the muscle we have through a lot of different ways, like our ability to recruit muscles, the rate at which we recruit them, a lot of different ways that we can do that. When we lift heavy over time, we can create more muscle, we create more force, we create more stiffness through our tendons. And our tendons translate the force from our running through all of our body. Your tendon, like your Achilles tendon, is not just some attachment point on your muscles or your leg. It is a continuation of what's all around your muscles, this tissue called fascia, that basically is all around like saran wrap on your muscles and then deeper levels of your muscles as well. So when you tug on that Achilles, your entire musculature responds. And that's all connected because every tendon crosses in the same joint. So every muscle is connected basically. This is why we almost want to look at ourselves like rubber bands. So when we're stiff, and when I say stiff in a good way, we are able to generate force without really losing too much of it in our tendons and thus our entire body. That's why being stiff, in a sense, can be really good, especially with something like running. The stiffer we are, the less energy we have to use, the more elastic we are. A lot of studies have shown that running economy can measurably increase within as little as 4 weeks. There are a lot of studies that you can look up that talk about concurrent strength training with running and plyometric training as well, where runners of all levels are doing strength training and run training together. And they've also compared this to doing each of those individually. So runners who are just running, runners who are just lifting and they're not running at all, and then the concurrent runners. And they found that those who do concurrent training are able to jump higher in metrics like standing jump, a broad jump. They are a little more muscular. They build some muscle. They run faster in different distances for time trials. So they're able to run faster. Their VO2 max doesn't really increase. A lot of them don't see significant changes there, but their running economy dramatically increases. So this is kind of where we get that 5% number. A lot of these studies have found that a 5% increase was making a big difference in all of these runners. And again, these are elite runners. These are non-elite runners, recreational runners, experienced runners, not experienced runners. They all benefited very similarly to adding in strength training to their routine. And they're able to run faster at a lot of different distances. What all this means is that if I can make strength training work within my running, I can have some really big gains in my ability to run faster and to be an overall better runner because I've got more muscle to push off or to create force. I've got more stiffness in my legs. I'm less injury prone. We'll talk about that a little bit more. All of these things can factor into me performing better in the short and the long term. So in the short term, in as little as 4 to 6 weeks, and again, as little as 4 to 6 weeks, some of these studies are a little shorter, a little longer. Increase the running economy, stronger push off and stride, huge. Improved coordination and stability. This is just when you move like a squat, like a lunge, a step up. Those are all progressions on each other. So basically, a squat, a step up, a lunge. They all progress. When I can do those movements really, really well, I'm just more coordinated them. I'm just better. It's just the skill, the practice of it. So I'm better at moving essentially. And then reduce fatigue at goal pace because if I'm stronger, I'm not going to feel like I need to produce as much force to move the same pace anymore. It's like if I squat 300 pounds for 5 reps, if I squat at 100 pounds, I can probably do a lot of reps. It's going to be a lot easier for me because I've gotten so much stronger. The long-term benefits over months, seasons of consistent strength training, faster times without the extra mileage, you're going to benefit. Again, like your running economy is going to increase. So you can run faster without having to do a lot of extra running, which that sounds great. More time saved in the future of extra miles. Fewer overuse injuries. Running is a very injuries prone sport. There's never a guarantee, but strength training can help not offset, but can help reduce the risk of injury, especially soft tissue injuries, where mostly going to be in your tendons. So that patellar tendonitis, your Achilles tendonitis, tendinopathy, IT band syndrome, plantar fasciitis, all the itises, it can help reduce the risk of those because we've built stronger tendons over time. Greater power for hill and sprints. Yeah, if I can produce powerfully in strength training and in jumping, I can do more specifically to running fast and running uphill. And then longevity of the sport. I'm 35 now, and I do strength training so that I can run as fast as I hope to by the time I'm 45, 55, 65. I still want to be able to run really, really fast. Doing strength training can help me with that because it'll help me keep my muscle and my tendons stiff. So I don't know about you, but I hope we can all run really fast. And I think this can be a big way to make sure that you're doing that. How to get started. Okay, so we want to be simple at first. We want to go light, high reps, low load. That doesn't matter if you're an experienced lifter or if you're a completely new lifter. If you're putting into your run programming for the first time, you need to adapt to that new demand first, no matter what part of your season you're in. The reason being, if I just throw in strength training and I do too much too soon, my running will be affected. I won't be able to train the way that I need to. Allow your body to adapt to the new stress. Huge again. We want to make sure that we're doing it easy and light and then progressing from there. Learn the proper form. So for the less experienced lifters, you just learn how to do this stuff really well before you lift and go heavier. That's true across any type of strength training in any setting. If I have a client who's not a runner at all, they're starting strength training, I'm not going to just give them 100 pounds on a barbell the first day. I want them to learn how to squat first and how to do that with a dumbbell or kettlebell, goblet squat, or have them do anything backloaded. We just want to start simple and build where it makes sense. And then it's best to start early in the training cycle, but it's never too late to put it into your training program. At any point of your training cycle, you can benefit. So looking at that specifically, if you are someone, again, who's experienced or new, if it's in the beginning of your season, we put that where you're doing very light sets and reps, where you're doing maybe 2 workouts a week. And for most, it's probably only going to be about 2 because, again, we want to optimize time. 2 workouts a week where we're doing 5 primary lifts. As you can see on the right, squat, hinge, like a deadlift or hip bridge, a lunge, step up would be a really good first one, but a reverse lunge or a walking lunge for those who are a little more advanced, a push, like a push up or a bench press or a pull or a row, something that's going to be like a cable row, a pull down. Doing all of these, we're hitting every part of our body. So full body workout, of course. And we're doing that so we just balance everything out and we learn how to move. We're stimulating a little, all parts of our body. It's all connected. Sets and reps are going to be mainly somewhere probably around 2 to 3 sets for 12 to 15 reps at a weight that makes you just a little fatigued at those rep ranges and within those sets, but not really, really fatigued or not going necessarily to failure to start. That's something you can get closer to as you go through the next couple of weeks and you start to drop reps down and you maybe increase sets and start increasing your weight in order to start pushing a little bit more. But in that time, in the meantime, your body's adapting. So your running is still going, but you're adapting. The beauty of doing this early in the season is that you're probably in base training for your running. So you're just running miles. You're not really focused on intense workouts yet. If you are somebody who's doing this in the middle of their season, this should not hurt you. Even if you're doing hard workouts specific to your race or your training, this is not going to hurt you. This is why you give yourself that easy buffer first and then start making it harder as you go. So an example of this, full body workout, really simple. It's something you can do at home. You can do it at the gym. You don't need a lot of equipment. As long as it feels challenging, all you really need. A full body circuit, 3 rounds of 15 reps each exercise, or for this case, we have step ups, so 8 on each side, so we don't spend forever doing step ups. You could do this as 1 round through each exercise, or you could do each of the exercises 3 rounds and move to the next one. I might recommend that more for getting started because these are going to be lighter reps. You want to kind of keep your stimulus as close together as possible because these are so light. The recovery periods will be low and we want to get a little bit of muscle damage. But if you do it the other way, it's fine. Again, we're learning movement patterns too for beginners, and we're just working these movements into our routine right now. Simple ones that I'll typically start with somebody, and again, it depends on the person and their experience level, but a goblet squat is fantastic. All you need is just something to hold at your chest. Goblet as in holding at your chest like this, a goblet. A push-up, Just need your body weight. As long as you can do a pretty good push-up. If you can't do it from the ground, do it from an elevated surface, on a couch, on a table, bed, counter, whatever you have. As long as it feels challenging by, in this case, the last 2 to 3 reps, that you're getting closer to failure, that's probably a pretty good position to be in. And then over time, dropping down and making it harder. Hip thrust. So hip bridge from the ground, squeezing your butt, driving through your heels, holding at the top for a second, making sure we get all the way up. Elevating your feet can make this a little harder. If you want to make it more hamstring specific, we can take your feet away from your body a little bit. Single leg to make it more running specific. There's a lot of ways you can progress this. You can elevate your shoulders and make it into a hip thrust from the shoulders. You can also add weight to your hips if you have weight and you want to use that, but you don't necessarily need that to make this challenging. Seated or kneeling rows. I always like to have athletes do something seated or kneeling down when they're starting rows if they haven't done them before, or like a suspension trainer row, something that gets them to drive through their hips. One, it just gets them to stabilize a lot better and they can really focus on the row. But two, it gets them kind of get to feel out the row specifically. A lot of us tend to not do rows correctly. So it allows us to really focus on the shoulder blades retracting together at the back of the row. It allows us to get that really good squeeze between the shoulder blades, dropping them down a little bit, using our mid back to hold those shoulder blades down a little bit. And then when we go forward, it allows us to retract and really feel that good stretch across those muscles, getting full range of motion from our shoulder blades and our lats, and all the other muscles are going to be involved with that. And then step ups. It is an introductory exercise for single leg movements. When you're starting at the bottom, all you have to do is step up, and you can teach that loading down and gently tapping your back foot without pushing off too much. And great way to teach a lunge, because if I can teach you how to drop down successfully, you can teach a lunge pretty easily, depending on the person. This is the most running specific exercise in a routine like this, but over time it can become more running specific. The simple changes like you're going to see here. So how to enhance your training, more running specific movements like lunges. It's a single leg movement. What do we do in running? We're bounding from leg to leg, a single leg. So lunges are great. Reverse lunges in particular, I love. Heavy loaded are awesome. You will definitely feel those, and they are pretty running specific. Step ups, you can make this a progression itself by the speed of how fast you go up. If you make it a little bit more eccentric, if you're coming out even slower, if you're holding weights at your chest or down at your sides, like step ups, they may be a simple start to a lunge, but they can definitely use progression. They use as a progression by just adding a few elements to it. Single leg RDLs or Romanian deadlifts. This is a high hinge using your hamstrings and your butt primarily. This is great to load to really work those hamstrings. Another thing that we can focus on, a few elements like I talked about before, the eccentric phase, we can go down very slowly. That is eccentric, very slow, controlled movement down. 3 to 5 seconds is what I'll usually recommend to most athletes when we're doing something that's going to be eccentric focused. We may not do as many reps there because it's a lot more time under tension, but it's great to learn how to just move your body. And it also provides a lot more muscle damage. So you have a higher potential for muscle growth and strength development doing that. Another thing that's huge is we want to focus on power, fast concentric movements, that up of the movement or that unloading of the movement or load. Fast concentric, when we're running, we're explosive. We are concentrically driving off our leg into the next leg. So we want to focus on power with any of these lifts that we do. Starting off, we may not cue that as much, but when you're doing more advanced or when you're becoming more advanced, we can start saying like, hey, I want you to come off the ground really quickly in that lunge, or I want you to push off the ground really fast in that push-up, or I want you to row that cable really fast within reason. If you're on a cable row and it's going to slam or anything like that, maybe not so fast, but we want to do things quickly to mimic what our running demands would be. For upper body, you may say like, hey, what does my upper body have to do with running? Well, upper body should help your running. It should enhance. It should never take away from your running. So we want to have really relaxed arms, really relaxed shoulders. The best way to do that is to practice in running, but also to help build strength in those muscles as well. Our body has a relationship lower to upper, and we want to make sure that our upper can work with our lower to help stabilize us and help us drive through our stride. Single arm work like bench press can be really good. It's not just a chest exercise, but a core exercise that can be incredibly helpful or learning how to stabilize yourself. A 3-point row with one hand down, one knee down, where you're rowing a dumbbell, a kettlebell from a bench, or not a bench, just using the wall, but hinging forward. That teaches a lot of same thing, just the opposite direction of anti-rotation. It can also be something to help us work our hamstrings isometrically, which can be really good for building strength in those hamstrings if we're doing something pretty heavy. So all really positive. And at the end of the day, it's going to help us keep an even musculature in our upper body because we tend to lean forward as runners, but it can help us be stronger so that our arm swings may be a little more relaxed, especially as we're going longer or faster in our runs. So that being said, that was the kind of basics where we begin. How do we progress this? So I'm getting started, doesn't matter where I am in season. I always want to start simple. If I do get the chance to do strength training early in my season, whether I'm experienced or new, I want to make sure that it's still light and I'm doing higher reps, lower loads, 2 to 3 sessions a week. We can get away with a couple more sessions because when we're doing lighter stuff for higher reps, we're probably going to get through those sessions a little bit faster. We still want to do full body. We never really want to do split body routines. So like kind of like bodybuilders, just because one, it's not going to be as effective for us as runners. And two, it's just really time consuming. So full body workouts, we get a lot done in a short amount of time. Within those sessions, trying to hit all your primary movements, so your push, your pull, your squat, your hinge, and your lunge in all of those, and then progressing, even within those early training phases, progressing those movements. If you're more advanced lifter, you can do that a little bit faster. You could even start off with more advanced lifts that are going to be more specific to running, but we still want to keep the weights light, the reps and sets, or the reps high, and about probably 3 to 4 sets. It's so many reps, we don't need a lot of sets, but a lot of reps. That's what we're looking for with those. As you progress and you get better with these movements, your body gets used to them again within your training. So it knows what it's doing with the running, but now it's starting to integrate the strength training. You're not overly sore. You've got the movements down. It's feeling pretty good. You can begin to now drop down the reps, maybe increase the sets because you're going a little lower on reps. So you can add that in with another set or so. Still maybe 2 to 3 sessions, but we're probably going to 2 at this point because we're starting to get heavier and we want some time to recover. These are where I'm going to start to increase my load. And if I have not already, progressed my exercises so that I get morning running specific and I start to build a little bit more muscle and a little bit more strength within my sessions. That's going to eventually come into play with my running. It's going to help my running. On top of this plyometric movements, I'm going to progress my plyometric movements as well. I'm maybe going from like simple jumps to like single leg jumps now in order for me to get a little bit more specific with those exercises, as long as I can do them well. As you go through the season, through your mid-season, you're going to get to your heaviest point, mid-season to just before your late season where things get more running specific. You're going to lift as heavy as possible. This depends on the athlete. Generally, I recommend athletes lift no more or less than about 5 to 8 repetitions. A lot of studies have shown that this can be very effective in building strength and a little bit of muscle within athletes at those rep ranges. So it's still pretty heavy, but it's not going to be so heavy that you're going to risk an injury from, say, maybe bad form, or sometimes it just happens. You get injured in the gym, even though the likelihood of injury is low. We're going to really reduce that risk by lifting within those. So I don't really have anyone do below like 5 reps. Like I said, we're going to build strength, which is going to be the primary goal. We're going to build stiffness, tendon strength. And then we're going to build a little more power. And we build a little bit of muscle. One thing that I hear from a lot of runners is that they're scared that they're going to get like really big and like really bulky by lifting. They'll have a couple people say like, I'm just genetically predisposed to grow muscle. It's like, what a good problem to have. It's great. But if you look at it a little bit more closely, so running and strength training are polar opposites. Our body recovers in different ways. For running, when we run a good bit, our body adapts to running in a lot of different ways. But some of the main things are we build a little bit more type 1 fibers. So like your aerobic fibers, the ones that are really good at endurance. These tend to be your smaller muscle groups, but the ones that also have a lot of mitochondria, they're a little bit more aerobic metabolizing. So basically, they use oxygen a lot more to help break down ATP or basically our fuel in this case. Um, you develop those muscles a little bit more. They don't get like big and strong. They might grow a little bit depending on, but they don't get big and strong. So when you're running a lot of your recovery resources go to that in order to help them be better. They get more blood flow, all good things. When it comes to strength training, it's the opposite. Strength training tends to use our bigger motor units and muscle fibers. These are the ones that are type 2, and there's two different types. There's kind of an intermediary that's somewhere in between type 1, type 2. And then there's going to be our ones that are mainly fast twitch. Those are the ones that are going to be trained through strength training. When I do strength training, those tend to get bigger. So like actually cross sections, they get bigger. They get recruited. They're better at getting recruited. So your nervous signals get more efficient and at a faster rate. So you recruit them better, faster, more efficiently. And you get a little more blood flow to those areas. Those are all developed with the resource you get post strength training. So like blood flow recovery. Sorry, my dog. Hey, Molly, stop. All the resources. Sorry, my dog is barking at something outside. All the resources go to that. When we do running and strength training concurrently, the studies that we talked about before, a lot of them show that there's no huge increase in muscle mass. It's just because like we're not able to really use the resources for muscle growth that we need with concurrent running. Because on some days you're going to be running and strength training at the same time, and we'll talk about that in a moment. But it doesn't allow the resources to build muscle to really happen. So running doesn't allow us to grow really big, even if we are genetically gifted to be able to get really muscular. Probably not going to happen with runners. So that's something you don't need to worry about. Any additional size will not affect your running if there is any additional size. So that's my spiel on like why we should and not be afraid of growing bigger. So this is another big one. I get a lot of runners who are afraid of strength training, feeling sore because it's going to affect their running. And I will say you will feel sore on some days, especially when you're going into a new challenge of strength training, whether you're dropping your reps down and increasing your weight, or you're just increasing your weight from a previous training session, you're going to feel a little sore. But that's why we start easy and light early. So your body has this long runway to develop and not feel as sore for these heavier, harder sessions in the long run. There's also ways that we can program our running and our strength training so that we limit the amount of soreness we feel when we have our harder sessions or our most important running workouts. Something that I tend to recommend, and you'll look at me sideways, but this is a great way to program, is to align your hard lifting days with your hard running days to allow for true resting days. That way, we're never going into this training cycle. If I have a week, let's say I have a Monday hard workout in the weight room, I have a Tuesday hard work on the track, I have a Wednesday hard workout in the weight room, et cetera, et cetera. When am I going to rest? My body doesn't get time to recover. If I take those lifting sessions and those hard running sessions and say I do an easy run on Monday, and then Tuesday I know is my hard day, I do my run early, my hard run, and then later on in the evening, I do my hard lift. And then I get an easy run on Wednesday. So I'm just compressing those really hard stimuli and putting them on one day. That's going to allow me to recover on those off days, which I should be doing. That 80-20 principle, and it depends on the person, right? Like nothing's ever an absolute. It applies here too. I want most of my time to be spent doing easier stuff and recovering, especially as a newer runner or newer lifter. And then as I go through the week, I can be as strong in every one of the key sessions that I need. The key thing with this is that if I'm going to do it on the same day, the running should be first. The reason being is I can do a lift feeling tired from a run and I'm not going to lose a lot, right? Form doesn't need to be absolutely perfect as long as it's good enough. Running is not like that. Running doesn't need to be perfect form. But if I'm sacrificing good form, I might be sacrificing my ability to stay healthy because I might be putting more stress somewhere I don't want to. If I'm really fatigued, I may be increasing my risk for injury. I may not be able to hit the paces that I want to in my workout, which is huge. That's why we do the run workout. I might have an increased heart rate. All these things that I don't necessarily want from my run workout. So it's best to do these early in the day, and then with at least 6 hours of separation between those sessions, be able to do the weightlifting workout later on. So again, prioritize quality run sessions and then adjust the lifting because you can still get a lot out of the lifting even if you have to adjust it too. Plyometric and power training pairs with speed workouts as well. So typically you can do plyometric training, like jump training, before a workout, before a strength training workout. It's a great way to get warmed up for your primary lift, and it doesn't take too much out of you because these are usually very short, intense sessions or exercises that are not going to fatigue your body. Nervous system wise, it will a little bit, but also help prepare you for those movements depending on what you're doing. There's a lot of crossover with like a squat and like a jump. So usually good to do before a strength training workout, but it also can be really good before a run, depending on what you're doing with those exercises. When we think about drills that we do on a track, A skip or marches or B skip or bounds or anything that we've probably done a few times, they're all plyometric, even if they're simple stretch shortening exercises. So like pogos, they're still plyometric. Doing them before running can work really, really well. As long as you're not overly fatiguing yourself, that's where I would be a little bit more cautious of like how much I do, but they can be great before a quality run session because you're going to be running fast anyway. So it helps you warm up for that as well. Some recovery techniques. If you are overly sore, foam roller is really all you would need in your body to stretch. Foam rolling is great. You can hit your targeted areas. Definitely recommend it. It doesn't need to be super long, 30 or so seconds, and a specific muscle can be all that you need, just rolling and finding any of those kind of sticky spots. Massage, if you have a massage therapist, significant other, friend, massage is great and go a long way to work those specific areas where it might be really tight. Compression, compression therapy like compression boots and other tools can be incredibly effective as well. Help kind of take those nasty leftovers of our hard workouts within our extremities and help us get it back and recycle through the rest of our body. Walking and light movement, kind of the same thing. When we walk, we move, we pump things out of our extremities and back throughout our body. So we're kind of taking all that nasty stuff out of our system. And nutrition, which we're going to talk about in about a month, is vital. It can help us with our recovery by getting the key things we need to recover optimally. So before I go into the key points, another thing I want to talk about that we didn't get into. So I'll have some athletes that are, say, in parts of the season where they may just not want to weight train, and I want them to, but they don't want to or they don't have the time to. Something that we can do that's still going to help with that, besides so body weight exercise, it's doing something, are isometric movements. So isometric, all that is just like a wall sit. It's a simple exercise where you're just kind of sitting there, you're driving your feet out, and you're kind of producing force to your quads, right? Exercises like that, targeting specific muscle groups, can be really beneficial for tendon strength. Tendons tend to be what we injure the most. It's again like IT band syndrome, patellar tendonitis, hamstring tendonitis, tendinopathy, plantar fasciitis, all the itises. Those are tendons that are overworked or not strong enough for the demands that we are asking them. And repetitive movements are not the favorite thing of your tendons to do. Your tendons can atrophy in specific areas over time through repetitive movements because they're just not getting stimulated. So we're asking them to do a lot, but they're not getting loaded the way they want to. The best way to get tendons stronger is actually heavy lifting, and plyometrics can be really well. Just producing a lot of force. So they're getting stressed and they're responding by getting stronger, by growing cross section, kind of like a muscle. Isometric movements have been shown to be similar as long as you're doing them hard enough. They're very simple. They can be done very quickly and very easily. And it's the same like simple strength training. You can make them very, very broad, two-legged, and you can start turning them more running specific exercises. So like a wall sit to a single leg wall sit. I know it sounds really hard, but they are very good and they're pretty reasonable, and you won't be that sore because, again, they're isometric movements. You're not doing a lot of muscle damage. You're just stressing the tendons. A lot of the exercises that I will tend to recommend and program for runners. So, like I said, a wall sit where you're driving your feet out, you're stretching your quads and that patellar tendon. A hamstring bridge, so where you bring you're laying on your back like a glute bridge or a hip thrust. You walk your foot out a little bit away from your body, preferably about like 45 degrees. You just drive your heel into the ground really, really hard for, again, 30 seconds. Same thing for the wall sit. 30 seconds is a good threshold. Um, and then like a calf raise, like a single leg calf raise or a calf raise against the wall can be incredibly helpful. Holding each one of those for 3 to 4 sets of 30 seconds each can be incredibly helpful to stress your tendons enough to help them get stronger. They like that stuff. They want to be pushed. So if you don't have a ton of time and we need to optimize tendon strength, that's what I'll give my athletes at any point of the season because it doesn't make you very, very sore and it does a lot of good for tendon health. So there's a little bit of speed that can maybe get transferred over if we're more stiff through our tendons by doing those, and we're maybe able to generate or transfer a lot more force from our running. That can be a positive game in our running economy. And then the same thing injury wise, it can make sure that we're a little bit more resilient to those tendon injuries. Key point for pretty much everything here: strength training equals better performance and fewer injuries. Bottom line, again, a lot of studies have shown it. You can look this up online. There's been many studies and then meta-analysis of those studies where they look at everything and they kind of take away key points. They've all shown an increase in basically running economy and running performance. The main thing with this is, again, start light, progress gradually. It doesn't need to be complicated. If something's overly complicated, you're just not going to have time for it. So start light, make it easy. You're going to gain benefit from that, no matter what level you're at. Frequency decreases as race day nears. So when we get to race day later in the season, and we didn't talk about this before, as you get towards your race day, you've already been lifting heavy for whatever you're doing, whatever heavy is for you. You've lifted heavy. We've done those 5 to 8 reps for several sets with a pretty heavy load for 2 times a week. Once we get to later in your season where you're getting into the last month or so, you're going to your taper, we drop that down to 1 time a week, one session. The reason being is that now that I've built it, I can maintain it really easily. It's like building a house. It takes a lot of time and resources to build, but once I have it, it doesn't take me nearly as much time and resources, but I do have to spend some time in maintenance. That 1 time on the week in the gym, lifting at the same weight is going to be all you really need. So to offset any of the losses or atrophy over time, the one stimulus a week is more than enough to get that. As we build, we need more days. We need at least 2 in order to grow. But once we get there, it's just 1, and it's not as hard to get there the next time. So keep that in mind. 1 time a week, we can hopefully all do that if we're getting closer to the race date or whatever challenge we set for ourselves while we're training for running. And consistency is better than perfection. This is huge. A lot of us tend to think that we have to be perfect at something. Guess what? It's really hard to be perfect at something. The main thing that we want to do through any goal is just be consistent, get better every single day. That's how we got to be runners. Same thing with your strength training. You don't have to be perfect. You don't need to move perfectly. You just need to make sure that you're moving good enough with enough of a challenge to progress in your strength training. And then as you get better, doing it all over again, going through that cycle of not being perfect, just being consistent and getting better every workout. So how to get started with this? First off, you need to assess. See where you're at in your training cycle. What is your experience with weight training? How much time do you have to offer for it? Make it work within your experience, your training, and your time. Treat weightlifting like you're running as well. It can be really fun to track what exercises you're doing, what reps and sets you're doing, and then how much weight you're using, how much you go up. Define what season you're in. So I need to see what part of the season I'm in. Again, I'll always start simple, no matter what part I'm in. But it's easier for me to do that if I'm in the beginning of the season, and I have a lot of time to build into more complex exercises. If I'm in the mid part of my season, I'll start simple and light, And then I want to see if I can get enough time where I can start getting to those heavy workouts later in that training cycle. If I don't have time, I may just stop a little short of going to heavy, heavy and just take what I can. And then the next season I can build on that, maybe in the beginning of the season. But at least I've built up this time, this experience, this stress. I've grown some muscle. I've gotten stronger. I've increased my running economy. So just define where you're in and make it make sense with what you have available, the time you have available. Focus on one area of growth at a time. Don't try to get everything done at once. So if you're going into strength training for the first time, focus on getting just good enough before you focus on anything more complex. Don't try to get really running specific with all of these right off the bat. Focus on getting really good at squat. Perfect that as closely as you can. Again, we don't want to be perfect, we want to be consistent, but be as good as you can be. Get as good at push-ups or a bench press, a row. Get really good at step-ups. Focus on those really simple moves and then progress from there. And then just in general with strength training, make it really simple. Focus on, if again, just getting in and doing the workout or doing it at home, committing to that time. Start with that and let it grow over time. And then trust the process. This stuff is not done overnight. There's definitely some benefits you're going to get right off the bat. You're not necessarily going to feel like, oh, wow, I can run way faster. But you may start to see it a little bit in your race times or in your easy run. You may feel a little bit better. You're clipping through a regular course that you do every week, maybe a little faster with a slightly lower heart rate. It's going to take time, though, for the more long-term benefits and for you to reach your real potential with all this. So trust the process. This is why you want to make it fun. You want to track it, treat it like you're running so you can enjoy it like you're running. If you're scratching your head right now after all this and asking, okay, I could use some help, we've got you covered with that. We offer one-on-one coaching in custom run, strength, triathlon, and nutrition. This is for athletes of all levels, whether you're looking to get started, you've never done any of this stuff before, or you're looking to optimize and PR, we can help you with that. Our one-on-one coaching can be really effective because it offers a lot of communication, a lot of customization to you. So we meet you where you're at. If you'd like to do something a little bit more team coaching wise, we offer a lot of plans for 5K, 10K, half marathon, and marathon training. So if you're a more experienced runner, or if you just want to start off a little simple and you want to follow a plan, we've got you covered there. Within that, we offer paces, strength and mobility specifically for running, and more with all the community and feel that we have for all of our athletes. This is something that I personally work on. Get Strong, Finish Strong. This is our training program, our strength training program. It's a monthly total body strength training routine for runners, endurance athletes. There's monthly programming. We've ridden programming all the way out to be able to progress on each other. So the workouts all make sense. They're all specific to what we want to do within a training season. And they're for all levels. There is alternatives for every movement there that you can start with, whether you have the equipment or you've never done it, and then progress to whatever is next as a primary lift. It's for bodyweight exercises, for dumbbells, for barbells, whatever you have. Again, we offer the alternatives. There's progressive workouts. They build on each other. It's not just random. It's programmed to get you stronger, to be more specific to running over time, to and emphasize movement patterns, building strength, or building muscle, building strength. Like we talked about, it adjusts reps as you go through your training cycle, and you can start at any point. And videos and tips. There's videos for every exercise. We provide feedback on how to do the exercises or what tempos we need to be doing for the exercises, everything like that, in order to do them well and to reduce your risk of injury. So that's everything for Strength Through today. I really appreciate taking the time to watch this. I'm hopeful it was helpful for you. Again, whether you're new or you're an experienced lifter or a runner, that this can help you be the best that you can be. Next up, we're going to have our call for fueling your run. This is one that Coach C is going to do. Really excited for it. It's going to help you optimize your nutrition for whatever race you're doing.